Do you
Yeah.
ever feel, I mean, you're someone who you've, like you just said, you've worked for 50 years, you've had an amazing career, done amazing work. Do
Thank
you
you.
still feel, because I feel this sometimes when I go onto a job that you don't know what you're doing. Like you show up the first day and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been doing this now. I'm doing this professionally 34 years. And I step onto my first day, like on a show or I'm a guest star. And for a few minutes, I don't know what it is I'm doing.
I think I think that's absolutely the truth. No matter how many jobs, the first day you want to kill yourself. And I
Yeah.
when I did Animal House, I'd never done a movie. I mean, I'd done like a bit part in a film and a couple of episodes of MASH, but I'd never worked in a movie. And of course, none of us knew that Animal House was going to become Animal House. But the first day, we finished shooting, and I was just kind of sitting near where I had a dressing room, and Tim Matheson passed by and said, "How's it going?" Or "How'd you do?" Or "What do you think?" And I said, "Oh my God, I want to fucking kill myself. I don't even know if I know what I'm doing." And Tim Matheson was a kid actor. So he'd had 15 years of experience at least. And he said what you just said. He said, "Don't worry about it. Everybody wants to hang themselves on the first day. It's like you've totally forgotten how to chew gum." But
Yes.
it's a very,
That's how I feel.
yeah. I
It's
think
very
it's the
strange, and then I feel stupid for feeling that. I'm like, you've done this your whole adult life. You
yeah.
don't know what. Of course, you know what you're doing.
I think it's such an intense emotional connection to other people because as actors you can't hold it in. You got to give it to the other actors you're working with.
Yes.
So somehow you've got to figure out a way to get to that place, and it usually takes a half a day or a day, and then you realize, like you said, Michael, you do know what you're doing. But I think the hardest thing of all is relaxing in so that everybody you're working with is in this intimate, intense relationship, whether you're antagonists to each other or lovers or friends. And
Right.
it is a miracle that you remember what the hell you're doing.
Peter, so your first TV role, MASH.
Right.
A legendary, one of the greatest shows in TV
A
history.
great show.
Great show.
You go out, you audition. Tell me how that happens.
I think if my memory serves me, a casting director had recommended me. It might have been Mike Fenton, who I think recently passed away. I think. Anyway, it was one scene in two different episodes. And it was shot on the Fox lot. And going back to what you were saying, Michael, all I kept thinking was, do not fuck this up. I mean, I learned my lines, I knew my lines. And what I noticed was all the other actors who'd been doing MASH for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, I mean, a long time, they were blowing lines, they were cracking up on. And I was sitting there all I kept thinking was, you're the guest. You don't get to do that. Bring everything you've got. And I actually had a physical bit of action where one of the actors, we're in the mess hall, and I get into an argument with one of the actors who I've made a bet with. And I've got my tray filled with food. And I've got to smash this guy in the face with the food. Now, you know how physical things can get. I didn't want to hurt the guy. So I practiced as best I could to hit him with the mashed potatoes or whatever it was. And it worked out. But all I kept thinking was, this is not your show. You're the guest. And if you want to get invited back, don't fuck up your lines.
Sure.
But everybody was so generous and couldn't be happier to have me on they didn't know who I was. I was just some kid actor.
Yeah, but that was a big credit back then. Big credit.
It
You
was.
got that under your belt, you know.
Well, it was the first time I worked with a professional Hollywood crew. So that was a great experience also. And somebody had given me advice. I can't remember if it was on MASH or Animal House, but it was a friend who'd done a couple of movies. And he said, get to know the camera operator and the sound department. And I said, okay, why? He said, so you'll be in focus and they'll hear you. And I thought, that makes perfect sense.
So from there, you do Animal House. It becomes something nobody thought Animal House was going to be what it was. It was one of my favorite movies. I remember.
Oh, it's great. It's still
we went
great.
back in Brooklyn, Loews Oriental. I mean, I must have saw it 3, 4, 5 times. I mean,
well, back in '78, it was like that's where you took your date.
It was just fantastic. And so during the filming, did you realize they were making something special, or not until you saw the finished product?
It's probably like what you guys experienced when you did the pilot of The Sopranos. It was clearly a great script. The cast was top notch. And on the last day, we shot it up in Eugene, Oregon. On the last day, I think it was me and Tim and maybe Bruce McGill, somebody, we're just sitting bullshitting. And we all said, what do you think? And I think it was Tim who said, let's just hope that John, meaning the director, John Landis, let's hope John is a great cutter, because we had so much material. I don't think any of us had a clue, because that was a success like you guys experienced. It's beyond your comprehension.
Oh, it was a huge movie when it came out. Really big.
It still is. It still is today.
And it's hilarious. Was it fun? As fun as it looks?
I would always say to people, did you have fun watching the movie? And they would say, of course, yes. I said, well, that's what we did for 7 weeks. It was like that every day. Because it was 1977. The drugs weren't bad. There was no AIDS. There was no, it's like another universe.
And Belushi, how was he on the set? Did you get close with him, Peter, or no?
I met John before he became John. I met John in probably 1972 or 3, I think, in there through a friend of mine. And he, all I knew was he's another guy who's trying to get work, but he hadn't become John Belushi yet. So what I loved about working with John was he really knew how good a cast he had. And as you guys know, you're made better by the people you're playing opposite. And John knew that he had a really superb cast opposite him, and he was into it. And the role was really constructed as a cross between Harpo Marx and the Cookie Monster. That was the idea. So John,
that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. So John barely spoke, except with those crazy eyes of his, and that fantastic speech when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor. But he was I think it's, he's a brilliant sketch performer, but as you guys know, sustaining a character for an hour and a half on film, that's a different animal. But he was game and fun, and he would work with us. He was also doing Saturday Night Live at the same time. So he would he would come to Oregon on Sunday, work with us till Wednesday, fly back to New York for Saturday Night Live, and this went on for 6 weeks, something like that.
Wow.
But he was I mean this in the right way. He was part of this ensemble. I mean, I think Tim Matheson was brilliant in that movie. Karen Allen almost is the glue that holds it together. And every part, Stephen First and Mark Metcalf,
Oh, it's
and
great.
I mean every single character. And
Yeah,
what I
McGill,
loved,
he was great. Yeah.
oh yeah, McGill, fantastic. And what was so special about John was that he recognized everybody's contribution, and he was
Mm.
already 2 years into being a star of Saturday Night Live, but he didn't like all great actors. They, or let's put it this way, the ones who want to get the best out of you, they're present and they want you to be present. So,
All right.
and I've worked with an enormous range of talented people. So